Okay, this section is about the powers that Congress has. Congressional power, we talked about this kind of yesterday when we talked about federalism. They have expressed powers, and those are the ones that are in Article 1, Section 8, that are explicitly stated in the Constitution. Like it literally says, Congress has the power to. Then you have your implied powers, which we learned yesterday was those that can be reasonably deduced. And then inherent powers, which are just because we have a national government. Now, a strict constructionist believes that Congress should only be able to exercise their expressed powers and the implied powers that are absolutely necessary. They don't believe in giving Congress any more power than they absolutely should have. Whereas a liberal or broad constructionist believes that Congress should have more power. Most Americans today agree to a liberal interpretation of the Constitution, although if you look at actual Congress, it's kind of funny, a lot of them actually believe more in the strict. It's interesting since it's their power. So let's talk about some of these expressed powers. Specifically, we're going to talk about money and commerce. So Congress has the power to tax. However, they cannot tax churches or exports. Congress has the power to borrow money, and there's no limit to how much. And I know you guys probably think that, we're super in debt to China, and we are, but we're also in debt to a lot of other countries, and our government's actually in debt to us, the citizens. If you've ever bought a savings bond or somebody's bought you a savings bond, that is you loaning the government money. Now, our country, we are big into deficit financing, and that means the fact that we actually spend more money than we bring in. Now, public debt is how much we totally owe, and I want to say it's about $12 trillion, which is just shocking. During the Balanced Budget Act of 1997, we actually did not have deficit financing. We actually had a surplus. Then 2000 happened, and 2001, specifically September 11th, and we decided to go to war, and that went out the window. Currently, we are spending way more than we bring in. Congress has the power to regulate interstate, that means between states, and foreign, with other countries, trade. And these are super broad powers, and they've been used for all sorts of things. There are some limits, however. We cannot, as I just mentioned, we cannot tax exports. And we cannot favor, with our tax policy, one state over another. For example, we can't tax California oranges higher than Florida oranges. And there cannot be a state-to-state tax, meaning if Florida imports something or exports something to Georgia, Georgia can't tax Florida on that. Okay, currency. It relates to money. Congress has the power to coin money. And all of our money is what's called legal tender. In fact, it says so if you pull out a dollar bill or a $10 bill. It says on there flat out that it is legal tender. And that means that money must be accepted in payment for debts. Now, interesting, in the time of COVID, we're seeing more places saying they don't want cash. They want to do cashless transactions, just so don't touch your money. And that's kind of interesting because it's one of those gray areas where legally they should have to accept your money, but it's kind of one of those, well, we're in the time of COVID, and so I don't want to touch your money. Congress has the ability to establish uniform bankruptcy laws. And in this case, we're not really talking about your personal bankruptcy, because this tends to be a state-by-state issue. We're talking more about corporations and bankruptcy. Again, in the time of COVID, we've seen a number of companies who are declaring bankruptcy. That does not mean that they are out of business. That means they have to rearrange their finances and figure out how they're going to pay their debts or, get themselves out of debt. Okay, some other express powers of Congress. They have foreign relation powers. That means the power to deal with other countries in making treaties, establishing trade again. War powers. Only Congress may declare war. Congress sets the rules for becoming a U.S. citizen. Congress is the one who's in charge of the post office, and they're the ones that can raise the rate of stamps. The post office has been in the news a lot lately, especially regarding how it's being managed and when it comes time for voting. I think we're going to see a lot more people voting via mail this November, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Congress is in charge of copyrights and patents. A copyright is any printed material or recorded, because they actually consider even a digital recording as being printed. And a patent is which you get a protection on a thing, an invention. Congress is in charge of weights and measures. We here in the United States use the English system, which means we measure things in pounds, feet, miles. And we actually have the original standards that are kept in the National Institute of Standards. So there is actually, somewhere, it's in Washington, D.C., what is the official pound? What is the official inch? So we actually keep those. They have powers over territories in other areas, like Puerto Rico, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands. They also have the power of eminent domain, and this means that the government can take your land if they need it. By law, they have to give you fair market value, but you don't get to say no. They also have the power to create all courts below the Supreme Court. Over to our south and west is, Brevard County Courthouse. That exists because Congress said, Brevard County, you can have a court system. So let's talk about our implied powers. Again, these come from the very last clause of Article 1, Section 8, and it's called the Necessary and Proper Clause, and it grants Congress those powers which are necessary and proper for carrying into execution the powers vested by this Constitution. It's kind of a little vague, but it broadens the powers of Congress. So it's called the Elastic Clause because it allows Congress to stretch their powers. And again, it's really brilliant on the part of our founders. They realized that maybe they didn't think of everything Congress should, be able to do. So they gave them the power to do, more things as they saw necessary. So, and all these come from an express power. So an express power says the power to raise an army and a navy. Well, the implied power is that if we're in a war and we don't have enough in our army and navy, that you can create a draft where you pull people in and you say, you're going to be in our army or navy now. The implied power also granted them the power to create the Air Force, because there was no Air Force when we wrote the Constitution. So your question here is to give another example of an express power. And again, feel free to look up the Constitution and figure out how Congress has used it for an implied power. So they're non-legislative powers. Congress is the ones who propose constitutional amendments. We talked about this when we talked about the Constitution. When it comes to electoral duties, if there is not a majority reached by the Electoral College, either it comes down to a tie or we have three candidates and nobody reaches the majority, it is up to the House of Representatives to determine who the president is going to be. The Congress also gets to fill the vacancy if we need a new vice president. As we saw back in January and February of this year, which seems so long ago, it is up to the House of Representatives to impeach a president or a member of the Supreme Court or a member of Congress. Now, impeach does not mean to remove from office. It means to bring forth charges. So my PowerPoint might seem a little bit old because I said 2 have been impeached. We are now up to 3. It's Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and now Donald Trump. They've all been impeached. None of them have been removed from office or were removed from office. That just means they were accused of a crime. Now, Richard Nixon was never impeached. He was going to be and probably would have been removed from office, but he quit instead. Congress approves appointments that the executive makes. So when the president appoints somebody to be in his cabinet, it's up to the Senate to approve them. The Senate also is the one who ratifies treaties, which are agreements between our country and another country. Congress also gets to investigate. I have up here the 9/11 Commission, which seems so long ago. But we've also having some other investigations. One right now is going on is into the post office, as I mentioned earlier, about what the post master general is doing as far as removing sorting machines and post office boxes. They also can focus attention on issues. A big one when I was growing up is the war on drugs. That one I think is still going on. But it's, depending on what kind of flavor of the month is, Congress can steer our attention in certain ways. So go ahead and when this video ends, go back to your PowerPoint, or your Google Slides, and define these vocabulary words. There are quite a bit, but I only had one question there for you.